It's that time of the year for the top 10 albums of the year. And I'm going to be the first to admit in this video that this year I have listened to less new albums than I have ever listened to before. And I think a large part of that is because now that I own a record store and I don't really do distro where I'm listening to everything that's coming out, I listen to albums from every single decade and I don't really have the time to listen to everything that's coming out during the year. So while I think I have 10 amazing records to talk about in this video, I definitely missed out on a ton of stuff. So what I'd love for you to do after this video is to leave a comment below with your favorite records of the year, especially if you think that I would like it. You know my taste if you watch this channel, and you might know my taste if you watch this video. So please let me know below what you think in terms of the albums that I missed out on, and I'd love to give them a listen now that I have a little more time around the holidays to kind of reflect and go back and catch up on stuff. But I do hope this video shares with you some records that you may not have heard, and it gives you the opportunity to go seek them out and enjoy them the way I did. 2 honorable mentions this year. First one is Svaneborg Kardib Overtage. I don't know if I pronounced any of that right, but such is life. Shout out to TMR community member Janosch for sharing this with me. This band is an amazing jazz duo that really leans into like down-tempo and ambient kind of music, as well as just being kind of jazzy. Every record I've heard of theirs is absolutely stunningly beautiful, and their record this year is no different. I don't think it's traditional jazz by any means. Of course, some of the kind of movements and progressions are jazzy, but I do think it falls a lot more into like down tempo, while being a little more sparse, giving it kind of some of that ambient feel at times. Really, really excellent listen. Great background music, great focused music, and definitely worth hearing. And then we have Paramore After the Magic. Paramore, I believe he is Korean. Amazing music. There's like tinges of emo, there's tinges of lo-fi, there's tinges of shoegaze, dream pop. There's a lot of these really beautiful like kind of lo-fi textures that are happening on this record, and it has this magical sheen to it. It's just a really pleasant listen, and it doesn't really sound like a ton of stuff coming out these days. It's like a throwback while feeling indelibly modern and unique, and I know that's kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around, but definitely check it out if you're into any of those genres I mentioned. All right. Starting at number 10, we have Hayden Pedigo, The Happiest Times I Ever Ignored. Hayden Pedigo is considered by some to be experimental guitar, experimental folk, ambient country, which I think is a really cool genre for him, and I think that kind of is how I view it, is ambient country. There's a lot of country-esque guitar lines, but done through a very sparse lens. Really, really pretty guitar music, just instrumentally breathtaking when it comes to the songs that he constructs on this record. Both this and his record prior are excellent and 100% worth your time. I've been meaning to dive into his earlier stuff. I don't know if it's even more experimental, but the 2 most recent records are so enjoyable. It is some of the most beautiful music. If you like William Tyler, if you like North Americans, this is right in that pocket of just gorgeous guitar playing. I can't recommend this one enough. And then we have Westerman, An Inbuilt Fault. This is such a good, I guess you'd call it indie pop, indie folk. I don't even know what to call it. There are songs that sound like Jose Gonzalez. There are songs that sound like Bon Iver. I just think there's this really interesting quality to his music that I seek out and I don't find very often. He has an incredible voice. Very clearly loves 80s pop as well, but he infuses that kind of feeling into some of the more modern indie pop, indie folk type stuff that he does. Very unique vocalist, and the songs are gorgeous. I saw him play this year at a tiny venue, and it was a really magical evening. I really loved his record prior to this as well. So if you want to give him a shot, I think there's a lot of material to dive into that you would really enjoy. I don't know if I like this record more than the first one, but there's definitely songs on here that I like more than the first. I don't know if it's as consistent as the first one, but both of them are excellent listens that are definitely worth your time, and an artist that you should definitely check out. Number 8 is Ana Frango Electrico, and I am not going to try to pronounce the name of the album. It is on the bottom. You can read it yourself. She is a Brazilian artist, and this album was such a surprise to me. Someone recommended it to me from the TMR community, and I love the cover art right off the bat. It's so cool. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna check this out. And immediately, track 1, captivated. This definitely has funky, soulful elements to it. It has jazzy elements, it has pop elements, some bossa nova kind of progressions in there. It is one of the most unique records I've heard coming out of Brazil that I can remember from the past decade, of all the things that I've explored from the most recent wave of Brazilian musicians. I think this is an amazing album front to back. It is a very unique listen, and I've heard that her earlier stuff is arguably even better. I think she has an album called like Little Chicken Heart or something that's before this that everyone says is like a must hear. So I'm excited to go further into her catalog, but this was one that surprised me and swept me off my feet because I thought I was going to kind of know where my top 10 were going to land. And then, someone recommended this to me a few months ago and I've listened to it quite a bit. I bought the record and yeah, this is just something you got to hear. Number 7 is Model Actress Dog's Body. This was another one that kind of took me by surprise. I saw them at the late great Doug Fir venue in Portland, which is moving. The old venue was iconic and was my favorite space to see music in town. And that was the final show I got to see there, which honestly, I can't think of a better final show for me to cap my time at that venue. It was transcendent. I mean, the energy that these guys put out is unlike anything I've seen in a live setting in a long time, especially something so intimate. Their music's kind of like a hybrid of like industrial stuff, Nine Inch Nails-y, health-y, and then also there's elements of like Talking Heads or like LCD Sound System with kind of some of like the talk singing, but then the really heavy breakdowns of the musicianship behind it, and then it kind of breaks into more like, quiet parts, and it has this kind of like really big ebb and flow aspect of it that is just captivating, especially live. I remember watching it and being like, I can't believe what I'm witnessing. I felt like I was watching the next big thing. I was like, these guys are going to be huge if this is their first record and this is kind of what they're already bringing to the table. So if you like what I described and you haven't heard this record yet, I really think this is going to be a huge hit for you. It got great reviews across the board when it came out, and I have listened to it quite a bit this year. Definitely can't recommend it enough. Number 6 is Paramore's This Is Why. I almost forgot this came out this year because it was so early in the year, but Paramore returned with a triumphant record that was full of pomp and circumstance, funky bass lines, and, Haley just crushing it on the vocals as she always does. This is a very different sound for Paramore. It doesn't really harken back to those pop punk roots from her earlier days, and it doesn't even touch on like the tropical pop that she did on After Laughter. This is definitely Paramore in their most aggressive and catchy that they've sounded probably since Riot, in terms of just hitting you in the face with things every single song. Really memorable choruses and hooks. I loved this record, and I'm really sad I didn't really get to see her perform on this tour because they had to cancel the Portland show because she had vocal issues and she needed to rest, and she was getting sick. So that was a huge bummer. I was going to go see her, but this album is excellent, and I think most people who heard it did enjoy it. I love that Paramore can keep reinventing their own sound. They could have just remade Riot over and over again, and it would have been good, but I like that they're consistently trying new genres, new styles, and new approaches to the sound that they've perfected over the years. And yeah, Paramore is just one of the greats. And then we have Eric Hilton and Natalia's Corazon Kintsugi. This is a big surprise for me because, first of all, thanks to DJ Wags for turning me on to this record on our drive back from Seattle when we saw Kings of Convenience. But oh my God, this floored me because Eric Hilton is one of the major players in Thievery Corporation, a band I truly love. And I didn't know he had solo records. He has a ton of them. And he collaborated with Natalia this year and made the most beautiful kind of trip-hop, down-tempo record. Just unbelievable vocals from her, and then his signature syrupy, sweet, dark, sultry beats, almost feeling like it's coming straight from like the Mirror Conspiracy era of Thievery Corporation. Definitely bringing in those sounds that made me fall in love with that band in the first place, and I think this is as good as the best Thievery Corporation stuff. It is just front to back a beautiful listen, and it really took me by surprise that this even existed, let alone the fact that there's even more Eric Hilton solo stuff to dive into. So yeah, definitely check this out. Also, I love the name Corazon Kintsugi, just the concept. If you know what kintsugi is, repairing things that are broken with gold to make it beautiful. It's just the album title alone is great. Number 4 is Boy Genius, The Record. You know it wouldn't be a top 10 list from this channel if I didn't mention the girls, Phoebe, Julian, and Lucy. They're just crushing it, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I feel like there's no stopping for them. When I first heard this record, my initial thought was that was really good, but it's not as good as the EP in my opinion. And after seeing them live on tour, all of those songs just unlocked for me. Watching them be performed with the energy that they bring to their live show made the listening to the studio recordings that much better. I didn't dislike it at all from the start for the record. I just wasn't as blown away as I'd hoped to be, but now I am blown away. And that record is just lyrically absolutely devastating and heavy. and intense as they can be on their solo projects, and the camaraderie of these three excellent musicians that love each other so much and are so good at collaborating. It doesn't get much better than that. They really knocked it out of the park with the record. Number 3 is Sufjan Stevens' Javelin. When I heard that Sufjan was putting out his first folk follow-up to Carrie and Lowell, I lost my mind, because Carrie and Lowell, as you guys know, is a top 5 record of my lifetime. There's something so intrinsically magical about his songwriting on that record, and it's so personal and so intense and so beautiful, and I couldn't wait to hear more things in that vein. Javelin was definitely a success for me. After listening to it many times, don't think I like it as much as Carrie and Lowell, but I think the bar was set so high, I don't think anybody could dethrone it, even his own material. But that being said, I do enjoy some of the textures that this album offers. There are a few songs that sound like they could have been on Carrie and Lowell, but ultimately I do think that this brings a new era of Sufjan that also reflects every single album leading up to it. There are elements of Michigan and Illinois on there. There's elements of Carrie and Lowell, like I said, and there's even elements of Age of Odds with kind of some of the more electronic elements that are brought into a few of the tracks. Some of the production harkens back to those songs really well. To me, it's like a victory lap. It's a retrospective of his career leading up to this point, and Javelin on its own is a huge triumph. I feel so bad that he's going through all of these health issues with his diagnosis, and I was really hoping to get to see this album live. I hope he recovers, and I hope that if he does recover, he will want to go on tour and share this music with the world, because it deserves to be shared. Obviously, if that never happens, I completely understand, but this album is just gorgeous, and I'm so elated to add it to the already perfect catalog of Sufjan Stevens, who I have to say is probably in my top 5 artists of all time. I just think he's mastered the kind of music that speaks to me. And he also, much like I was saying with Paramore, has reinvented his sound so many times over the years. And I find it so impressive. And Javelin, to me, is just a culmination of all of that beauty. Number 2 is the National Laugh Track. Now, I'm just going to combine 1 and 2 into this one, because you all know the National is going to take the top of this list. Let's just add number 1, the National, first 2 pages of Frankenstein. They put out 2 records this year. That is not an easy task unless your name is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Putting out 2 consistently solid records throughout 1 year is something that artists only aspire to do, and sometimes if they try to do it, one of those records feels like B-sides. This is anything but. The only reason that I'm putting first 2 pages above Laugh Track is because the opening track of first 2 pages, Once Upon a Poolside, featuring Sufjan on backing vocals, has got to be a top 5 song the National has ever written. There's something so intrinsically national about that song, with the lyrics, with the melodies, with Matt's vocal lines. Everything about it is it cuts directly to the core of what I love about this band. It is heartbreaking, it is intense, it is just overwhelmingly gorgeous across the board, from every instrument to every lyric. I think that is a perfect song, and because of that, it just edged out Laugh Track. But that being said, between both albums, there is very little to dislike. I think there might only be 1 or 2 songs that I don't absolutely love, and I think it would probably be like This Isn't Happening on first 2 pages of Frankenstein, and maybe Crumble on Laugh Track. I don't know, but I like those songs a lot. I'm just trying to think of the weak point for me, and I don't really have them. The fact that they put out 2 albums and they're so transcendently good this late in their career is a testament to why they're my favorite band, and I am just so elated that we have so much material for them to dig into. I've listened to these 2 albums more than everything else on this list, so it's a no-brainer that they're at the very top of the list for me. But both of these albums safely sit at 1 and 2, and I have no doubt that they're the best albums that came out this year to me. And I know not everyone's going to agree with that, but I am just so happy with what they brought us, and I think some of their best songs are on there. I mean, Smoke Detector on Laugh Track has this like post-punk feel. It almost has like a alligator feel to it at times with some of the aggressive aspects, and then you have things like Space Invader, which is just stunning, and it has this chaotic outro. Laugh Track with Phoebe Bridgers, the call and response of Eucalyptus as they do it live, and the audience is screaming the lyrics with them. The driving Tropic Morning News, everything about these records is incredible. And I'm just so lucky that my favorite band gave us 2 incredible records in 1 year. So that is my top 10 list of the year. But as I mentioned, I would love for you to leave a comment below with the things that I missed, because I know there's plenty. Like, for example, there's no rap album on my list. I know Danny Brown put out his record with JPEG Mafia. You guys know my feeling on Danny Brown. I can't do a full album of his voice. Didn't do it for me. I know Billy Woods put out Maps. Didn't really do it for me. Please, though, if I missed out on any amazing hip-hop, because it's one of my favorite genres, let me know. And I bet you there's one you're going to bring up and I'll be like, crap, I should have put that on my list. You're right. But make me have that moment. Leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed this top 10 roundup this year, and there are more videos coming soon. Take it easy.